Emmerdale has delivered a huge shift for Dawn Fletcher, as she stormed away from her fiancé Joe Tate after uncovering his disturbing blackmail scheme. This development follows reports just weeks ago that the character will be written out of the ITV soap. This dramatic twist feels refreshing, especially since Dawn has seemed lost over the past few years. Reflecting on her journey, the decline began when her youngest son Evan was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia in 2024. Initially, Dawn and her husband at the time, Billy, were portrayed as anxious and drained, doing everything possible to shield Evan from infections while staying constantly by his side. However, his storyline was suddenly dropped from the screen. Although Dawn remained present during this period, the show took her character in a confusing direction that didn't align with her child's serious condition. The focus then turned to the arrival of Dawn's estranged mother, Rose. After only briefly exploring Dawn's feelings of abandonment, the storyline shifted attention to her father, Will Taylor, while Rose quickly disappeared and was never seen again. As a result, Dawn's perspective on Evan's illness was already lacking, and her delicate attempt to reconnect with her mother was left unresolved. Just as the leukemia storyline should have been revisited, Will's death shook the family, and soon after, Dawn's relationship with Joe led to the collapse of her marriage. Becoming deeply involved in a new romance while her sick son was still frequently in hospital undermined her role as a devoted mother who had always put her children first. It wasn't until earlier this year that viewers finally learned Evan's treatment had been successful, the first meaningful update since those initial hospital scenes. Although this outcome opened the door for potential character development, Dawn still received very little attention as an individual. Aside from a single powerful episode where she reflected on her experiences with sexual coercion and drug addiction alongside April Windsor's storyline, her character remained underexplored. Even that moment of depth was short-lived, and beyond it, Dawn's presence in the village has lacked a sense of connection. Her early bond with Ryan Stocks, for instance, has completely faded, and there has been little to no focus on her role in running Take a Vow since becoming involved in the business. Instead, Dawn has remained tied to ongoing drama surrounding Joe, and their relationship has only weakened her character. Her strength has diminished as she repeatedly ignored his increasingly disturbing actions, from intimidating her adoptive daughter Clemmy to being involved in a deadly crash, taking a kidney from his own uncle, and most recently, vandalizing Holly Barton's memorial. The truth that Dawn had shoved Joe out of a home farm window the previous year should have carried major weight. Yet it ended up feeling meaningless when he barely learned anything, and she quickly brushed the entire situation aside without confronting their issues. So when she viewed footage of John Sugden attempting to murder Victoria, who fought back and ultimately killed him, the scene where Dawn finally snapped out of her passive behavior felt like a real victory. Shocked that Joe had recorded the incident and was using it to blackmail both Robert and Victoria, she erased all evidence and chose to walk away from him. Having previously been manipulated by men and even forced into taking a life herself, much like Victoria, it was fitting that Dawn became the one to finally strip Joe of his power and hold him accountable. If the show is truly restoring Dawn's strength, there is hope she can avoid a disappointing and quiet exit. Rather than simply ending things with Joe, there is potential for Dawn to seek revenge on behalf of everyone he has harmed. His actions have affected numerous residents, including Moira Dingle, Kerry Wyatt, and Jacob Sugden, making his downfall long overdue. Dawn could push him into confessing, or if the authorities fail to act, she might take matters into her own hands by claiming his wealth and embracing a bold, Kim Tate-style move by disappearing with the money. It would also be a perfect chance to revive her old connection with Ryan, whose tech skills could help her outsmart Joe. This path would give Dawn a powerful and memorable exit, though it's not the only direction the story could take. Her former partner Alex, or another figure from her past, could return, leading to a final, empowering confrontation, where Dawn faces her history head-on. Though it is rarely mentioned now, Dawn was once responsible for killing the corrupt D.I. Malone, shooting him to protect herself and the late Harriet Finch. While Kim removed Malone's body from Home Farm years ago, Dawn's upcoming departure could see the storyline resurface, raising the stakes as she once again finds herself fighting for survival. Whether she ultimately faces consequences or not, it would be meaningful to revisit this pivotal chapter of her life and recognize Olivia Bromley's powerful portrayal during a time when the character was at the center of the drama. As a resilient woman who rebuilt her life, Dawn deserves a farewell that is far from understated. The show should embrace her strengths and deliver a final storyline that truly belongs to her, one that leaves a lasting impression. Robert Sugden was pushed to his limit in Emmerdale during tonight's episode, as overwhelming guilt led him to finally confess everything to Aaron Dingle about his role in framing Moira Dingle. Earlier in 2026, Joe Tate managed to get hold of footage showing Victoria Sugden covering up the death of John Sugden. As part of his plan to take control of the Sugden land, Joe pressured Robert and Victoria into handing it over for nothing, threatening to expose the truth about John's death if they refused. He later discovered ID documents at Celia's farmhouse and forced Robert to plant them at Butler's farm. Using the incriminating video once again, Joe warned Robert that he would report Victoria unless he cooperated. Robert went ahead and planted the passports, which resulted in Moira Dingle being arrested. At the time, he had no idea that Celia was involved in serious crimes like drug trafficking, human exploitation, and modern slavery, and he was devastated to realize he had unknowingly helped frame Moira in the process. With no clear evidence proving her innocence, Moira revealed to Kane Dingle this week that she plans to plead guilty at her hearing. Feeling hopeless, she believed that doing so might give her a better chance of being released before her son Isaac grows up. Aaron learned about Moira's decision and passed the news on to Robert, leaving him filled with regret. Determined to fix things, Robert teamed up with Ross Barton to expose Joe, but their plan quickly fell apart, thanks in part to Ross's unpredictable nature and Dawn Taylor catching Robert in the act. After overhearing Ross mention that Robert owed him money, Aaron began to suspect something was wrong and soon uncovered the truth about the planted IDs. To Robert's relief, Aaron chose not to reveal his secret, but made it clear they must work together to find new evidence that could clear Moira's name. In upcoming scenes, the pair tracked down a storage unit in Houghton that had been briefly shown earlier in the week. A new video teaser reveals Cami Hadid confirming that Ray's old car registration leads directly to that key location. Although it takes time to locate the correct unit, Robert, Aaron, Paddy Kirk, and Mackenzie Boyd eventually break through and uncover a huge stash of documents linked to Celia and Ray. Moira's family are left hopeful that this discovery could finally prove her innocence. But the big question remains, will it be enough to save her? And after Robert's shocking confession, what does the future hold for him and Aaron? Emmerdale is broadcast on weeknights at 8 p.m. on ITV1, with episodes also available to stream on ITVX.